At 78, Annie Denver confirmed the rumor about John Denver. Not a lot of artists can blend pop, folk, and country music with unmatched lyricism, and yet, American singer and songwriter John Denver managed to do all that with ease and more. As one of the most popular acoustic singers during the 1970s, John Denver popularized many hits like Take Me Home, Country Roads, Leaving on a Jet Plane, and Annie's Song, with the last one inspired by his then-wife at the time, Annie Denver. Now at 78, Annie Denver has confirmed the real story behind their relationship, finally putting to rest the rumors surrounding the late country singer and the poignant inspiration for his most personal ballad. It's no secret that many people wouldn't know who Annie Denver is if it weren't for her famous ex-husband. However, the former school commissioner and TV personality is an impressive individual in her own right, which is why it's no surprise that the late country singer was so completely smitten with her. She was born Annie Martell on September 6, 1946 to Jim and Norma Martell in Minnesota, USA. Raised in the Christian faith alongside her three siblings, Linda, Terry, and Ben, she attended local schools throughout her childhood. After graduating from high school, she enrolled at Aldous College in St. Peter, which is where her life would intersect with the legendary country singer. At the time, John Denver was a member of the musical group called the Chad Mitchell Trio. The would-be lovers first crossed paths in 1966. Martell was a sophomore, and Denver was instantly drawn to her. They would meet again a few months after their initial encounter. In a 2022 episode of the Mobituaries with Mo Rocca podcast, Annie shared more details about their first meeting. She recalled how her future husband was performing with the Mitchell Trio, and afterward he played guitar for a silly little musical that a group of people were putting on. Martell's role was simple. She was the girl who carried the signs across the stage, Act 1 and Act 2. She even revealed that her ex-husband always remembered what she wore that day: a pair of blue jeans, a flannel shirt, and penny loafers. The two quickly hit it off and began exchanging letters. Before they knew it, they were walking down the aisle, tying the knot on June 9th, 1967, after a relatively brief 9-month dating phase. Annie's Song is one of the most beloved of John Denver's hits, and it was the song that introduced Annie Martell, now Mrs. Denver, to the world. What makes the ballad so noteworthy is its fusion of everything John Denver held dear: his passion for music, his deep love for his wife, and his profound connection to the environment. Recently, Annie Denver finally confirmed the emotional truth behind this iconic song. Apparently, the now 78-year-old still cries whenever she hears it. Besides this song, Annie also shared that another of her favorites is Perhaps Love, the duet her ex-husband performed with Placido Domingo. So was Annie's Song born from a simple, intimate moment? Contrary to popular belief, it came to fruition after a period of tension and a life-changing experience. The year 1971 was pivotal for the folk country singer, largely because of the release of Take Me Home, Country Roads. But a few other singles also helped define his career, especially Annie's Song. The story begins when the couple went on a camping trip in Aspen, Colorado with some friends. As a dedicated nature lover, it didn't take long for Denver to fall in love with the place, which would also inspire his other major hit, Rocky Mountain High. Eventually, Denver and his wife moved to Aspen, where they built a home and started their family. One day in 1973, after one of their many quarrels, the couple set their differences aside and made peace. Feeling inspired and in a much better mood, John left to go skiing. As he sat on the Ajax chairlift on Aspen Mountain, surrounded by the beauty of nature, the melody and lyrics for Annie's Song just came to him. He rushed home to write it all down, and in less than 10 minutes, the song was complete. Initially, it was a love song, and it was given to me through him, Annie explained. And yet for him, it became a bit like a prayer. It's a beautiful testament that there is lasting proof of the love shared between Annie and John Denver encapsulated in this song. The couple was unable to have children biologically, but they wholeheartedly adopted a son, Zachary John, and a daughter, Anna Kate. Unfortunately, their love story did not have a fairy tale ending. In 1982, the Denvers filed for divorce, concluding their 15 years of marriage. There are two sides to every story, and both John and Annie have shared their perspectives on what drove them apart. For the country singer, he believed his intense commitment to his work and the pressures of his success deeply affected his relationship. He admitted that in the last few years of their marriage, they seemed to have started drifting away from one another. Being a popular singer at his prime required Denver to spend countless days on the road, which also played a significant part in their divorce. In a 1983 appearance on The Russell Hardy Show, Denver shared, "I think my success and my commitment to the work that I do certainly had an effect on Annie's and my relationship. Over the last 4, 5, or 6 years, we started drifting away from one another." In contrast, Annie cites that a primary reason for their breakup was that they were too young and immature to handle John's sudden thrust into stardom. She found his celebrity status and all that came with it to be threatening, feeling that she had lost her own identity in the shadow of his fame. Despite their differences, the couple managed to split on relatively good terms. Annie has remained single to this day, while John Denver would remarry, and contrary to some online rumors, Annie Martell is very much alive, living in her Colorado home surrounded by her children and grandchildren. Their separation was mostly amicable, which is quite surprising considering the scandals and controversies that later surrounded her ex-husband, particularly in the years leading up to his tragic death. Since we've explored Annie's story, it's only right that we also delve into the life of John Denver himself. Born Henry John Deutschendorf Jr. on December 31st, 1943 in Roswell, New Mexico, he would become the legendary country icon known as John Denver. His parents were Emma Louise and Captain Henry John Dutch Deutschendorf Sr., a highly decorated pilot. Denver remembered his father as a stern man who wasn't openly affectionate. Because of his father's military career, the family moved frequently. This nomadic lifestyle made for a lonely childhood for the introverted Denver, who found it difficult to make friends and assimilate into new environments. The longest they stayed in one place was Tucson, Arizona, from 1951 to 1959. At age 11, his grandmother gifted him an acoustic guitar, which he taught himself to play. By the time he was in college, he was skilled enough to perform at local clubs. It was Randy Sparks, the founder of the New Christy Minstrels, who suggested he adopt a more accessible stage name than Deutschendorf. Now going by John Denver, he continued to perform while studying architecture at Texas Tech University. He sang in a folk music group, but eventually dropped out in 1963 to move to Los Angeles and pursue music full-time. 2 years later, he replaced Chad Mitchell in the Chad Mitchell Trio. A few years later, Denver left the group to embark on a solo career. His first album, Rhymes and Reasons, was released in 1969. A self-produced demo from that era included a song called Babe I Hate to Go. A producer named Milt Oken saw its potential, and after being reworked, it became the global hit, Leaving on a Jet Plane, famously popularized by the folk group Peter, Paul, and Mary. In the early days, John Denver did most of his own promotion, driving through the Midwest, offering to play for free at local venues and radio stations. This grassroots effort built him a solid and loyal fan base. His 1971 album, Poems, Prayers, and Promises, was his commercial breakthrough, largely thanks to his new manager, Jerry Weintraub, who launched a massive radio airplay campaign, with hits like Rocky Mountain High, Sunshine on My Shoulders, and Thank God I'm a Country Boy. John Denver's popularity soared in the early 70s. He became a television staple, hosting specials like Rocky Mountain Christmas, which was watched by over 60 million people. As his fame waned in the late 70s, he focused more on humanitarian and environmental conservation projects, founding the Windstar Land Conservancy in Aspen. The divorce from Annie was tumultuous. Denver confessed that in a moment of anger during the division of their assets, he tried to cut their marital bed in half with a chainsaw. It took a few years before Denver met his second wife, Australian actress Cassandra Delaney, in 1985. They married in 1988 and had a daughter, Jessie Bell. However, this marriage was also short-lived, ending in 1991, with Delaney reportedly calling him a vindictive bully. Many believe this second divorce was a catalyst for Denver's later struggles. In 1992, he was charged with drunk driving for the first time. In 1993, he pleaded guilty to another DUI charge after crashing his Porsche into a tree, resulting in probation. The FAA mandated that he abstain from alcohol to keep his pilot's license, but he was unable to comply and was medically disqualified from flying in 1994. Beneath his gentle, soft-natured public image, John Denver battled depression and insecurity, often turning to alcohol for comfort. Like his father, John Denver was an avid and skilled pilot. It was one of his greatest passions. So how did a man with his experience meet such a tragic end in the sky? On October 12, 1997, John Denver was piloting a Rutan Long EZ, a light home-built aircraft, when it crashed into Monterey Bay, California. He was 53 years old. An investigation by the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, pointed to several factors. A key issue was the poor ergonomic design of their aircraft. The fuel selector valve was placed behind the pilot's left shoulder, making it incredibly difficult to switch fuel tanks mid-flight without letting go of the controls. Furthermore, the sight fuel gauges were not marked with calibrations, making it hard to accurately determine how much fuel was left. The NTSB concluded that Denver likely ran out of fuel in one tank and, while attempting the awkward maneuver to switch to the other, lost control of the aircraft. The investigation determined that his failure to refuel the plane before his final flight was a critical error. The aircraft was not sabotaged. It was a tragic accident caused by a combination of poor design and pilot error. John Denver paid the ultimate price, but despite his grim end and personal struggles, he is celebrated and remembered for his incredible contributions to music and his tireless humanitarian efforts that inspired and changed lives. Even today, his music endures. This year, Take Me Home, Country Roads re-entered the Billboard chart after being featured in a Super Bowl commercial, proving that his songs remain as timeless and relevant as ever.